Welcome to Nomad Boat Building. I'm Mark Rudin, and today I'm going to share with you a little hack that I came up with. Boat building takes a lot of time, and so anytime we can find some place to save some time, it's well worth it. Today I'm building Gannet. I'm going to show you how to make buttons for lapstrake planking. In lapstrake planking, one of the most time-consuming activities is clamping and unclamping the plank that you're creating in order to do the fitting process. You may hang and unhang a single plank a dozen times or more to get that fit just right. And in doing so, the standard method is to use some sort of clamps to hold that plank in place. Well, using clamps to hold it in place is a huge time suck. Now I've got a simple little hack that I figured out for saving a lot of time during this process. This is so simple, it might even seem too stupid to do a video about it, but I'm going to share it with you because I've never seen anybody else use this little technique in their lapstrake building process. This is something I came up with on my own, so let's jump right into it. So when we're lapstrake planking, there's quite a few moments in the process where we need to clamp our planks in place, often in the exact same place that we had them a few moments before. Now there's a bunch of clamps that we use for fastening planks at the laps. There's F-body clamps, deep C clamps, there's cam clamps, Brenner clamps, and clinker pins. So there's your F-body clamp, there's your deep C clamp, there's your cam clamp, there's your Brenner clamp, and there's your clinker pin. These are all great clamps for clamping at the laps, but they're often quite bulky, and they can really get in the way of a lot of the different processes that we use. And there's quite a few times where I don't need the plank necessarily clamped at the lap. I just need it positioned on the boat and held in place. For that purpose, we use a little shop-made jig called a hutch. A hutch is really just like a clamp pad with a screw going through it. The point of the hutch is that it spreads the load over a larger area, so you can screw through the face of a plank and it prevents the screw from burying itself into the plank. Now I use a variation on a hutch that maybe is more accurately called a button, and buttons are something we'd use for like holding down floorboards in a boat. So a button at its simplest is just something like this. And the purpose of this particular style of button or hutch is that I can fasten this to a stem or a mold and then it catches the plank here in the notch. And so your hutch or button needs to have a notch that is sized to fit your planking. We're using 3/8 planking on this boat, so I need a 3/8 deep notch. Now the length of this doesn't really matter, but nominally it's twice the thickness of the planking, which is the size of our plank laps. And the purpose of this is to be able to fasten the plank quickly and simply without a lot of stuff getting in your way. And you can leave this screwed onto the mold or onto the stem while you're messing around with fitting the planks. That allows you to have the plank butt up to the edge of this button and locate the plank, if you will. Now, quite often it's nice to be able to get that right out of the way. It might be hard to slide the plank into the button, so for that reason sometimes I will make them like this with a little rounded inside corner that allows me to pivot this out of the way so the plank can drop onto the mold and then the button pivots into position and holds the plank in place. So today I'm just going to make a bunch of buttons for this particular project. They're the kind of thing that I tend to make them and then they disappear after the project. So I usually end up making a fresh set each time. You can make it out of the planking scraps quite nicely because that's already the thickness of your plywood, so you can just use a bunch of that. I haven't done any cutting of my planking yet, so I don't have any of that scrap available. And I find I like hardwood ones quite often because they're just a little tougher. Any piece of hardwood will do for making our buttons. Got a bit of locust here. This is 3/4 inch square. Sometimes it's better if it's a little bit wider, but that's fine. So the first thing we'll do is we'll draw a line down the center approximately. And that's for drilling fasteners on. And then we're going to start putting in some division lines. So I'm just going to use my little miter square here with a 3/4 inch wide blade. And I'm just going to step these off for as many as I feel like I need. Each one of these will be either a hole or a cutoff. Then on one side we need a line that's the same depth as our planking. 3/8. So I'm going to draw that line on there. And then if each one of these is a fastening hole, we need to offset that a little bit. So I'm going to offset it by 3/8 of an inch. So that centers up my holes. And then we need a haunch, and a cutoff, and a haunch, and a cutoff, and a haunch, and a cutoff, and so on. Our hole is going to pass right through, and then we're going to chop away the waste and buck these into little pieces. So each of these will get a hole at every second marking. And on the side, each of these will get a chunk cut out and the length bucked off. Now you could set up your table saw for doing this, but I just do it on the bandsaw, fast and easy. It doesn't need to be fine furniture. Over here at the drill press, we just need to drill a hole in every other spacing that's large enough for the average screw to pass through. Like 3/16 of an inch is about right. Now we have to do a little rip and a notch and then a cross cut for each one of these. Rip, notch, cross cut. We just do all the notches first. Okay, lastly, we need to clean these up a little bit. While rounding these seems like a hassle, it is well worth your time because the amount of time that you save not having to remove these in order to get the plank in and out is huge. This will only take a minute or two per button, and so compared to removing them all the time, makes a big difference. Just soften the saw cuts a little bit. And of course you could build these out of 2 pieces of material, say plywood, round over the ends of half of it, glue it together, drill a hole through it. But I've tried it and there's no time savings really in the end, so I find it's easier just to use solid stock and go at it with the sanding stick like you see me do here. There we go. That's all there is to it. Buttons or hutches, a super useful thing to have on hand, and if you're lucky, you won't lose them between builds. I know, that's a pretty damn simple thing, and yes, probably not really worth making a video about. But the reason I'm making a video about it is because I've never read about it anywhere, I've never seen anybody else do it, and so for that reason I think it's important that I put it out there. It is by far the most time-saving little hack that I have come up with in lapstrake construction. Now in the next video we're going to dive right into the full process of glued lapstrake planking. I hope you join me again on building Gannet here at Nomad Boatbuilding. See you later, folks.